Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. And as regular listeners will know, I have a somewhat love-hate relationship with the CES event, which is the Consumer Electronics Show, which takes over Vegas early January every single year. And often I've been guilty of criticising it and questioning the value of the event, because for me, the tech industry should be focusing on a more of a new frontier for sustainability and helping people do more with less. And by contrast, CES headlines this year seem to focus on Samsung's Ballie, which was a tennis ball-like robot that beeps and rolls around following its owner, capturing special moments. Just don't ask it to climb stairs. But also, as fires twice the size of Belgium continue to burn on one side of the world, on the other, crowds were getting excited about Charmin's Bluetooth-controlled robot bear that can bring its owner a spare toilet roll. And I'm sat there thinking, really? But I guess businesses want consumers to buy more gadgets and are not interested in stuff that just doesn't make money. So I went in search of someone that attends CES every single year who can provide a different viewpoint on the event. So that led me to Fin Partners, who are a global integrated marketing agency transforming communications every day. They have over 800 employees over 3 continents and 18 offices around the world. But obviously this isn't a marketing podcast, it's a tech show. And it was Barry Riker, who is a senior partner at Fin Partners, who has a passion for digital insights and ideas. And he's a digital transformation and innovation leader that focuses on breakthrough marketing and communication strategies. But he also, most importantly, goes to CES every year and covers in meticulous detail what people are talking about, both on the show floor and also online, to find out what tech really excites us. So enough from me. Let's get Barry onto the podcast now so we can talk about the big takeaways and the insights that he took away from spending a week at this year's CES. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Barry. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Hi, I'm Barry Riker. I am a senior partner at Fin Partners. I lead our research planning and measurement team. We're the insights and analytics group within Fin Partners.
Excellent. And as a veteran of CES, Barry, I've got to ask, what are the general trends that you've seen at CES over the years, and how many of those trends have actually gone on to the next big thing and live up to their promises?
Yeah, I mean, as we've been tracking this, and then we go and we analyze, not only from being there physically on the floor, but also looking at the online conversations and news coverage. I think that the theme that we're probably going to be talking about is really, it should probably change its name. It's instead of the Consumer Electronics Show. I mean, that's why they just say CES. It really should be the Consumer Innovation Show. I mean, that to me is how it's becoming more subtle innovations that have a greater role in daily lives. Are there the wild things that get demonstrated? Aibo, the robot dog, things like that happen. Yeah, it does. But really, we're seeing much more subtle but much more impactful things such as health and transportation, even food. I think one of the big things that really was an indicator of that this year was Toyota's woven smart city, the kind of demonstration area for that and what that will do. I mean, that's talk about total integration with living. That's how that works. And of course, the centerpiece of that is a self-driving car, and we've seen the trends on that. But really, those are the things that are really kind of having the more impact in people's lives. Mobility, scooters, monitors and health trackers. All these things are, not as wild as some of the things we've seen in the past, but, play a much bigger role.
And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited to get you on today, because I think mainstream media always concentrates on the weird and wonderful aspects of CES. So having just seen natural sunlight for the first time since CES this week, I'm curious, what were those big digital conversations around CES 2020? direct on the show floor. Were there any common themes?
Yeah, there were some. I mean, some of the big spikes that we saw, were the Sony seemed to have won the day in terms of generating the most buzz. PlayStation 5 and things going on around that definitely got kind of the lion's share of the online conversation. Foldable displays finally seem to be getting to the point where they're not just concept cars and starting to actually become a reality within reach for consumers. So those were the big kind of the gadgets kind of things. Like other shows like South by Southwest and other, we have seen the penetration of political and social issues that have now sort of cropped up in a show that's really kind of dedicated to technology, or other things. So those were kind of the bigger trends. And then the conversations before the show are not at all like the conversations during the show. So there's other kind of themes about particular speakers that we're going to be on, or what the kind of the role of CES should be in society changes once that show goes on. It becomes all about what's going on there.
And online, it almost felt like there was this increasing feeling that CES was this giant tech bubble that was kind of out of touch with the real world. And I suppose a lot of that is because of the reporting on the weird and wonderful. But one subject that particularly was highlighted was around privacy, because it seemed that almost every new device out there was taking photos or had a microphone in there and recording things. So I'm curious, did you find any differences between the conversations online and those on the show floor?
Yeah, there was a couple things. Privacy was really, I expected privacy to be bigger too. And it was really only ever hovered around 1% to 2% of the total conversation online, of the millions of posts and people talking about stuff. Really, privacy, data security, even cybersecurity, we look for all those things being said. And it really only ever amounted to 2% at the top, and then usually around 1% of the total of everything being said. There was a lot more talk outside of, between the show floor and online and in news. There seemed to be a lot more talk around gender issues and women in traditional media before, and the conversations that I was hearing in break rooms and even on the monorails going from the hotel to the thing. People were talking about those, outside of the show and before the show online, but that really kind of dissipated during the show. The only time it picked back up as an issue, women in tech and leadership in tech, was during the Ivanka Trump session. So that became, that was spiking at that time. But really, those are the things, that's where it was like a night and day kind of thing between what people thought about and then when they were in the show and on the show floor.
And I suppose we've got to go there. What were the craziest things that you saw at CES this year?
If you want to see crazy, you go to the Sands. That's the place where most of the really wild stuff is. It's not the bigger venue, with a giant LG monitor, football-sized monitors are and things like that. The Segway iRobot moving chair was, if you've ever seen that, the Pixar movie about the future, and like the idea of riding around in your chair and basically never leaving your chair. I think that was probably by far the most wild thing I saw. The I Love It companion robot dog I thought was very interesting. It was, while past robots have tried to make them more like, more like dogs, this was called the dog, but it actually functioned a little bit better as a companion. It was more like a pillow in a way that you hugged around. The things that, in the category of things that, I'm a dog person, but, cat people would probably like the iCuddle litter box cleaner. That was pretty cool. That was also on the Sands. And I think LEDs made a pretty good push there, and there was some cool stuff. The Pix LED backpack, so you could, kick both. It helps from a visibility standpoint, the kids walking around, but it helps them make a statement. It's really cool. Very low use of energy. So I think that'll wind up being pretty popular.
And was there anything that really excited you that solved like real world problems that you could actually see being a big hit in the near future?
Well, the thing that I was surprised to see the biggest lines around and people waiting for was the Impossible Foods area. So the pork, the Impossible Pork. I mean, if you remember last year, Impossible Burger 2 was one of the ones that won Best in Show. This year they rolled out pork and sausage, Impossible Pork. And, people say, well, it's food and people are just waiting for free food. But really, the idea of the meatless kind of meat really is built on, the whole company is built on solving that problem, those agriculture and environmental issues. So I think that's one of those things that was incredibly popular, but also kind of solves a societal problem as well.
And although CES is, of course, a consumer-based tech event, were there any trends that you saw that think might impact consumer expectations and help them continuously rise, or anything else that business leaders would need to think about?
The Toyota thing was pretty wild because it showed that smart cities are, actually can be a reality. There was lots of neat things that wouldn't be done before, but really it's becoming, there's so many innovations out there that now it's becoming the idea of if you remember the cartoon show, The Jetsons or something, where people lived in the future and flew around. We're not quite yet to flying cars, but, all of the innovations that are happening now are really being brought together to be able to form some sort of a city of the future. And, it's interesting that they showed theirs, which is going to be built in Japan in Las Vegas. Las Vegas is the site of the next big smart city called Blue Tech Park. So, and that is really just assembling all these different innovations that already exist in the one place and having them live in concert with each other. So I think that the next society is within grasp more now than it's ever been.
So I'm curious, when you were sat on the plane home reflecting about everything that you'd seen and experienced, both good and bad, what were your big takeaways from CES 2020?
In a big takeaway, what I found more innovation and excitement around the smaller displays and exhibitions rather than the large, big things. In fact, I felt some of the bigger companies there, they had nice things, and big, impressive stuff. But some of the stuff that was there last year, some companies, I couldn't tell the difference between their booths from this year to last year. There might be a couple new things, but I think companies seem to be riding out those innovations a little bit longer than thinking they need to switch out everything. They'll just add incrementally to it, but it's becoming more of a family for things. Take Google, for instance, and the idea that they had a big, huge building they built outside in the parking lot. And it was really an assembly of all the things that they've built before, with a couple new things added, but it's really about incrementally adding to a whole family of products, such as the things that they've purchased, the Nest and all those other things become part of a bigger family offering. So that's less, completely new from every exhibition and more incrementally adding to their family of products.
And as someone working right in the heart of tech PR and marketing, are there any tech trends around your particular industry that you think will be incredibly valuable to business leaders out there?
I think you asked before, and I think that's it. Privacy needs to be really something that is watched over. I think we need a whole new kind of reset on what privacy is and how to do it. The value exchange that people are willing to give up information is going to be something that companies are going to need to deal with. We saw a few companies deal with it last year. You saw Apple not there, and they're never really there from an exhibition standpoint, but they are running ads to say about how they guard your privacy and things like that. So we're starting to see companies start to wake up to that, maybe ahead of the conversation, really. And this is one of those first times where I think the online conversation might be behind where some of the companies are thinking about things.
And last year at CES, you did a great video report of an overview of everything that you saw there. I don't know if you're doing one this year or not, but for anyone listening that would like to connect with you, find out more information about the kind of work that you're doing, or contact a member of your team, what's the best way of doing that?
Yeah, we are going to be posting something. We're taking a little bit more time this year because CES made some data available to us actually on survey data. So we're going to be incorporating that into it. You'll be able to find that at finpartners.com/CES. I'm available on Twitter, Barry Reich, R-E-I-C-H on Twitter. And then you can always hit me up at my email, Barry at finpartners. or my team.
Well, I think one of the things that we always see through mainstream media is it's always only the weird and wonderful that's reported, like I said at the beginning of this podcast. So being able to speak with you and hearing the real value that's out there and maybe hear about some of the things that we don't get to hear about is invaluable to me, and I'm sure everyone listening. So I'm sure you're a bit jaded of CES after spending so long there, but a big thank you for taking the time to come on here and share your insights. Thanks again, Barry.
Thanks, Neil. Good to talk to you.
In a world of echo chambers, I just love busting out of mine for 20, 25 minutes there to chat with Barry, because I really do value getting another opinion on the conversations that dominated both online and offline around CES. It's so important. That's how you get a more balanced view of the world rather than just strengthening your own beliefs. So, Barry, a genuine thank you from me for actually taking the time to report back, not just to me, but everybody listening to this podcast in over 165 countries. But if anyone listening to this podcast was at CES or closely followed all the conversations online, let me know your thoughts too. I mean, what did you hate? What did you absolutely love? What excited you? And what was just plain old weird? Whatever it was, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com. You can get me on all social channels at Neil C. Hughes. And my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But that's enough CES for 1 year. I'll be back tomorrow and we will be talking about tech that is not built on future promises, that's not tech looking for a solution to something, but something that's out there now and making a real difference. So I hope you'll join me once again. So a big thank you for listening. And until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.